brother went outside, laying in the street dead, shot in the head. Couldn't believe it. Even to this day, I couldn't believe it. They didn't find out an illegal alien on his third gun charge. Now, we hear all these gun people talking about ban guns, but you got an illegal alien on his third gun charge, never been deported. It's not fair as American citizens. We demand Americans first.
That was Jamil Shaw, whose son was murdered by an illegal alien in 2008, detailing the literal dangers of illegal immigration during Donald Trump's rally last night in Costa Mesa, California. But outside that event, as we referenced earlier, there was a huge crowd of protesters, and it turned violent. Take a look.
Does anyone have a towel? Anyone have a tissue?
Thousands of anti-Trump protesters flooded the streets, attacking one of Mr. Trump's supporters, blocking traffic, destroying a police cruiser, all while waving the Mexican flag and chanting, "Whose streets? Our streets." Let's discuss it now, and we welcome in from Newsmax, Washington, political commentator Pat Buchanan, a key advisor to both Presidents Nixon and Reagan, and author of the book, The Greatest Comeback, How Richard Nixon Rose from Defeat to Create the New Majority. Pat, it is so good to have you back tonight on Newsmax Prime. What do you make of what happened last night in Costa Mesa? Is that a foretaste of what we're going to see on through the summer?
I think the dramatic contrast there is going to be of tremendous benefit if this continues to Donald Trump if he is the nominee. When you have up there, people have personal stories of horrendous tragedies, their children or their wives or others who have been murdered by illegal aliens who don't belong in this country. And then outside, you've got a mob stomping on police cars, raising Cain, cursing, yelling, not demonstrating peacefully, but behaving like a mob. I think that makes the case that Donald Trump's been making to the nation almost more effectively than he could make it himself.
And as we saw that last night, and we look ahead to this summer in Cleveland, we understand the police in Cleveland are going through all sorts of anti-riot training. We hear that the left is mobilizing. Will we see shades of Chicago 1968 at Cleveland 2016?
You know, I was in Chicago at that convention in 1968, and I was right inside the Comrade Hilton Hotel, as we called it, J.D.
Comrade.
When the police came down Balboa and hit Balboa in Michigan and went into Grant Park and delivered a little street justice to the people that had been tormenting them for days and days. But I will say this, that convention in Chicago, it said to the nation, if the Democratic Party cannot unite itself, how can it unite the country? And that was a hellish thing for Hubert Humphrey to carry, with demonstrations all the way through September. I do think there's a contrast here. If these people are out there protesting a Democratic convention, small d, held by the Republicans with Donald Trump up there, and them breaking the law and fighting with cops and cursing and the rest of it, I think everybody looking at them, every American looking at that, will say, in that face-off, I know whom I'm with, and I know whom I'm against.
Well, let's talk more about a word you touched on with reference to the Democrats in 1968, and that was unity. For the Republicans in 2016, nerves are getting frayed right now. Can the Republican Party unify behind Donald Trump if he, in fact, wins the nomination?
I think Trump is indeed the presumptive nominee as of now, and if he wins Indiana, I don't see how he's stopped absent divine intervention. I also think what is happening, J.D., is many people in this city and in the heights of the party, after Trump's speech on foreign policy, for example, the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, the Republican, spoke well of it. I think John Bolton, others are speaking well of it. I think what's happening is that the realization that Trump is going to be the nominee, and if he does really well in the election, we can save both houses of Congress, and we are all going to be in this together. So while a lot of folks are still resistant to the idea of Trump as nominee, I think more and more are moving toward a posture of acceptance. And I think by the time you get to the convention, almost all Republicans, except those who are walking out and going elsewhere, I think they will be aboard if they're not enthusiastic. And I do think there's going to, one thing Trump has with his constituency is immense enthusiasm and interest, which is almost a rarity in national politics in recent years.
Yeah, we call it in political parlance intensity. And Pat, you referenced that foreign policy speech earlier this week in Washington. Let's listen to a bit of what Mr. Trump had to say.
My foreign policy will always put the interests of the American people and American security above all else. Has to be first. Has to be. That will be the foundation of every single decision that I will make.
America first. Why, that sounds like a candidate I remember from 2 decades ago whose name was Patrick J. Buchanan.
Well, that was the theme of foreign policy in our campaign in 1992, and it is time to put America first. And if there's a lot of things in Trump's speech you will find that really are out of his stump speech, I think, and I sort of excluded those when I wrote a column on it, JD. And if you extract out what he's saying, the allies have to pay more. I'm going to talk to the Russians. I'm going to talk to the Chinese. He didn't call them any names. We do have to rebuild our defenses, but I don't want to march into any unthinking wars.
Got it.
I mean, if you extract that, you're talking about the foreign policy of Ike, who ended Korea and didn't get any more wars.
Unfortunately, our time is up. Patrick J. Buchanan tonight from Newsmax Washington. Thank you so much for your time.